For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh.
And I'm Ashley, or your ghost host with the most, as we discuss Beetlejuice, the musical.
Beetlejuice the musical adapts the iconic Tim Burton film of the same name as we follow Lydia Dietz, who was recently navigating her death of her mother and the complicated journey of grief.
First thoughts, it's a show about death, so I was not expecting there to be so much humor. It is definitely a PG-13 show for those of you thinking about bringing the kiddos. There is some suggestive humor throughout the entire show. So that was a little off-putting for me, but what really sold it for me was the performances and the choreography. And Ryan Stajmiger did amazing. Bailey Frankenberg, who's Delia, she was my favorite character. I know you love Beetlejuice, but Delia was just the way Bailey portrayed that character was just phenomenal. And then you get like all these little like supporting characters as well that like make a huge impact, and I think that's really powerful because you don't often find new age musicals where you have supporting cast being just as much of a big role as the main protagonists.
Yeah. This was my first experience with any type of like larger production theatrical. What a way to kind of get your feet wet. This show, I absolutely had incredible. I'm a huge fan of the movie and especially the animated series. I grew up on that, and I feel like a lot of that kind of really this production really embraces a lot of that early Beetlejuice lore that we know and love. Ryan Stajmiger does an incredible performance here as the titular ghost with the most that I really appreciated. I think a lot of the cast here is very strong. Other standouts for me, David Wilson and Kaitlin Feely, who play
Adam and
Barbara in this. I think they did an incredible job here. Really, I love the balance here between all of the musical numbers, how they both embody the original, but also kind of veer off and kind of create this new identity while also remaining like it feels like it belongs within this world. That was really awesome. They definitely also remixed some signature Beetlejuice songs that I thought were really incredibly done. Costuming's great. Light effects were incredible. Practical effects. There were so many times in this show that I was like, how did they do this? How did they do this on stage? Sandworm. Enough said. This show was a lot of fun.
Let's talk about that cast. I'm going to let you talk about Ryan. You can totally take that one. But before we move on to some of the main characters, let's talk about these supporting characters. So one person that like I did not realize, I thought they had their own like separate part specifically for them in the show, but they are listed as ensemble and then the additional role. So I had no idea, but Dazaria Harris, oh my goodness, is there anything they can't do? They were Juno, they were Maxine, they were neighbor lady with the pie, and then they were in the ensemble. But like those are little small roles made a huge difference. Like just made it fun. Like every single scene that they are in is just fun and explosive and just raw talent, and I cannot wait to see all of the things that they do. That was like the one kind of like minor, more ensemble character that just really like popped out of the main cast for me. What about you?
I think they also did an incredible job, and that's one of the things that I think this cast does really well is that there are so many times where you see actors will recycle themselves, kind of in whether they're in mostly in tertiary or ensemble roles. And that's something that I've never had a chance to experience. So that to me kind of left me really in awe, just kind of how talented this cast was and how small it was, but also how effective it was. I know I talked about Ryan, David, and Kaitlin, and my initial thoughts. I think all three of them kind of being the trio that really anchors this production, I think is they're exceptional here.
What about Bailey?
I think Bailey does an incredible job as well. She definitely has some of the funniest moments in the show.
I also love that she really did, like, while Delia was still her own, there was a lot of Catherine O'Hara that she embodied for that. And which, of course, like, Catherine is the titular role in the film. Sure. But honestly, it was very, very refreshing. And I just could not stop watching her, because even when she didn't have like speaking parts or singing parts,
it's the way that she
all of her movements, not even her face, her hand gestures, like everything. It was just, it's so good. And I know that, like, for all musicals and all stage plays, the role is written down, it's created. However, I am a lover of the musical theater. So I have been to many a show, and this was the first time where, like, I was just mesmerized by someone who was not the main characters, because for this, it is really Beetlejuice and Lydia. Yeah. But let me tell you, she, like, just, and her singing, phenomenal. So Bailey, got it going on.
I think when you are talking about Bailey versus Catherine O'Hara, I mean, obviously you see a movie that, something that gets translated, an iconic film that gets translated to a stage play like Beetlejuice, and it's hard to not draw those criticisms or comparisons, rather. We were talking about that on the way home, kind of some of the comparisons of, Ryan and Michael Keaton, obviously, and
yeah, you said it was more Keaton, and I do agree with you. I think acting wise, 100% Michael Keaton. I think vocal range and mannerisms are a blend of, the mannerisms are a blend of Michael Keaton and Alex Brightman, but Alex Brightman, who was the original Beetlejuice on Broadway, a lot of his singing reminds me pretty spot on and close to emulating the original actor.
The reason I brought that up is because it's really hard to not look, like I said, it's really hard to not compare. And I think that the privilege of a stage play over something like a film is that you have more time to kind of develop characters and kind of take them during some pretty new avenues. And so I would even make the bold statement, I love Catherine O'Hara, but I think Bailey kind of brings that character and makes it a lot of her own. She definitely has an animated quality to her that, while Catherine O'Hara, I feel like is not as exaggerated in the film, whereas with this film, or this play, sorry, she's very larger than life. She's very animated, and I kind of think that really fit not only the vibe of the musical, but also allowed her to really kind of stand out within the cast.
I do agree with you that she made it her own. And I know we said we weren't going to talk about it, and because it is different, I'm not going to really talk about it. But the Catherine O'Hara I'm talking about is specifically in the sequel. You get that level eccentricism that you see in the musical. But fun fact, the musical came first before the sequel. So maybe they took some pointers from the musical.
That's a whole nother conversation, because Beetlejuice 2 was stuck in development hell for decades.
We're not going to get into
literally.
We're not here to talk about that.
The last cast member I want to bring up and really focus on is Leianna Weaver, who plays Lydia in this. She does an incredible job. Nothing short of brilliance. She, I feel like, kind of is the emotional grounding and core of this. I mean, the fact that we open up this play on her mother's funeral, and kind of really exploring that depth right out the gate, I thought was such a smart move from a narrative perspective, but just the way that you really kind of feel with her throughout and the complications that come with this grieving journey and also the impact that it has with the other parent, I thought was just marvelously written and acted.
You mentioned it briefly, but practical effects in the set. I kind of want to talk about that because, like I said, I have the theater background, so like seeing the use of some of the set pieces with those practical effects, especially with all the fog that happens in that show, is so well done, so well designed. The whole set is very well designed, minimalistic, but still like a lot of stuff going on. And I think that's really cool is you have a basic set that you're projecting lots of different images on at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to see the slow change throughout the entire movie of the set while still being the original set. I know, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little too excited about that. But I just, it was so cool. And like, I'm not going to talk about the sandworm, but the sandworm is there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it is an experience to see a sandworm.
Yeah.
To scale.
Yeah.
In real life. And I think that I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
You see the sandworm multiple times throughout this show. We're not going to tell you when, but it was so cool. I don't know how did you feel about things like what practical effects did it for you?
I think the way that it kind of blends both practical and digital was something that I thought was really cool. Like the particular scene where kind of really blends that digital and practical really well between Lydia and her father. Can't necessarily talk about the plot points in it because it does get into spoilers, but I thought that blending was something that was really visually satisfying, but also at the same time was really such a cool thing to see live. I also love how quickly they were getting in and out of costumes here. Like the costuming.
Oh, the quick changes.
Crazy. The fact that like Miss Argentina is
mm-hmm.
one that like when you see her on stage,
mm-hmm.
head to toe green, the iconic green, and then when you see her for the curtain bow, she's completely back to her normal. What it's like such a short period of time.
Yes and no. I mean, as someone who is a theater kid, and you did theater too, so surely maybe you just weren't on the costuming side of things.
Nah, but I was a techie. I built stuff.
They're like the way the costumes are designed are specifically for quick changes. So Miss Argentina, I'm sorry for any Miss Argentina fans. That quick change, underwhelming. Very underwhelming during Miss Argentina's big song. I know this was your first show, but it felt, and it was opening night, but it did feel like a failed attempt at an Anne of Cleves 6 reveal. Choreography on point though. Yeah, he has no idea, but if you're a theater nerd like me, you know exactly what scene I'm talking about in 6. But quick changes like that, all the costumes are made for that.
You saw them more with the ensemble and kind of the background than you did any of the main cast.
Right, and the ensemble has a lot more time. Lydia has a quick change.
Yeah.
From a red dress to a black dress. That's really easy. Those are generally snaps, and the black would stay under the red, and you can see the bottom of her black under the red, yeah. But it's filled in with lots of tulle. I know I'm using a lot of technical terms, but for those types of quick changes, they're normally just like a snap. We did see a Beetlejuice quick change. Mm. That one, there's actually, it's really, really cool. Burlesque performers use it all the time. But it's basically like a threaded pull, and you pull it. So the ensemble is able to pull it, but they're strings. They're not pulling the actual garment. They're pulling a string, and it's ripping off from the magnets. We tried a little bit of a magnet thing for one of our performances, but did not use strong enough magnets. Lessons were learned. So like for me, I felt like the quick changes were very appropriate. There was one quick change with, I want to say Delia, where it was like a 10-second quick change from the time she left stage and came back on. It was crazy. Like I'm still trying to figure out how that one pieced together, because it's not a change you see on stage.
Sure.
It is definitely a backstage change, and a lot of these quick changes are backstage changes. We only really see 2 quick changes, I think, happen on stage, maybe 3.
Yeah.
They're very fast and very quick, and if you miss them, like, it's gone. So I'm really glad you got to experience that magic, though, because that's definitely something that, like, until you see it on the stage, you're just kind of like,
for me, the moment that kind of really stood out in terms of some of the costuming here is the kind of opening number to the second act, where kind of Beetlejuice has these like army of clones, we'll say. It's kind of like the way they do it, but the way they're lit, they look like a better version of Jared Leto's Joker mixed with
Beetlejuice. Yeah.
And it was on point. It was really cool. I love the way that hair specifically kind of like really popped against some of the darker set numbers. I think Delia kind of had some of the best costumes in the course of these 2.5 hours.
And with that, I think it's time we do a little CRITIC review of the other side.
Okay.
So let's get into it. I'm going to go first.
Mm-hmm.
As a musical theater person, was it my favorite show? No, it was not my favorite show. However, I did thoroughly enjoy it. So for me, traditional Rorschach rating, I'm going 4.5 out of 5. I really, really enjoyed the cast. I really, really enjoyed the musical numbers. I knew the musical numbers, not all of them. I did not know like hardly anything from the second act. So kudos to that show for keeping a lot of the second act under wraps. But I was singing along right there beside you. Were there some technical issues? Yes. I did deduct points for a couple times where the sound wasn't quite right. Was it good? Yes. Was it a fantastic opening night? Absolutely. That house was packed for an opening night on a Tuesday. And this show is very special to the National Theater. This show came 3 years ago as well. So they're back in DC, and it's bigger and better than ever.
I'm not a theater kid in the traditional sense. I grew up doing theater in high school, but kind of more of the technical side. So that kind of stuff always like speaks to me. So I had a blast with this. I think the sets look great. So, but overall, I thought it was a strong performance. I would love to see this again. I definitely think this is kind of one of those shows that will grow on me, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I think a lot of the musical numbers hit. I think seeing the orchestration pit afterwards was something that was really cool for me, especially someone that used to play in band.
Yeah, you were quite surprised when you found out. Yeah, I remember you asking. You were like, "So is there like a live orchestra?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're in the pit." And you're like, "What?" And I was like,
"Yeah,
it's under the stage." And so, yeah, getting to show you the pit was like probably my favorite part of the entire night.
It was exciting, but I think this is just an awesome show. I had a lot of fun with this. It's funnier than I expected. It's more emotional than I expected, but also at the same time, the music hits. And by trade, I'm a horror guy, and so anything that's horror adjacent, I love. And I love weird filmmakers like Tim Burton and the world that he creates. So I feel like I was semi-bound to like this to some degree. But a lot of this really surprised me. It does hit a lot of those same notes that the movie hit, but a largely this, I think these actors kind of made the show their own, the property their own, and it works really well in that way.